This is the best TV of 2024 in terms of picture quality, as judged by 9 video professionals and enthusiasts in a masked shootout of the 4 best TVs on the market, calibrated and benchmarked against a £30,000 reference monitor. Here's how we arrived at this conclusion. To evaluate near black handling including chrominance overshoot artifacts, we used the scene from the 4K Blu-ray of Lyd, as well as this low light sequence from Pan. Samsung's flagship S95D OLED came closest to matching the reference monitor in terms of near black luminance, while manifesting no flashing or glowing artifacts courtesy of its QD OLED panel that doesn't use white subpixels. Shadow detail on LG's G4 flagship OLED looked slightly darker than reference, whereas the Sony A95L QD OLED, continuing from last year, was somewhat too bright. Panasonic's flagship Z95A OLED showed obvious chrominance overshoot along the boy's arm, negatively affecting its score. We played a variety of clips from Ultra HD Blu-rays to judge HDR color accuracy. First up was this hero sequence from Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Then it's the scene from Scott Pilgrim vs. the World for white color gamut accuracy, both won by the Sony A95L. For low luminance colors, we used this dark sequence from Wonder Woman 1984, and the LG G4 came closer to matching the reference monitor than the Samsung and Sony QD OLEDs, which exhibited some color desaturation. The Samsung S95D easily triumphed in the high luminance color category, thanks to its latest generation QD OLED panel, which could natively go brighter than the one implemented on last year's Sony A95L. Towards the end of the shootout event, we also reset the picture settings and asked the judging panel to gauge out-of-the-box color accuracy in the most accurate picture mode with energy saving disabled by rewatching the same HDR scene from Shazam with reference to the mastering monitor. Even though the LG G4 took this category with an even higher score than that after calibration, it doesn't mean that our calibration made the color accuracy worse. It's just that other TVs benefited more from calibration to rectify their out-of-the-box colors. For HDR, the panelists were asked to watch the sequence from Gemini Man to judge 1000 nit tone mapping, and the always-on dynamic tone mapping on the Sony A95L did the best job in mimicking the presentation on the reference monitor. To assess 4000 nit tone mapping, we used this short clip from the Ultra HD Blu-ray of Batman vs Superman, and put the Sony BVM-HX3110 mastering monitor into its 4000 nit mode. The Panasonic Z95A was deemed by the judges to deliver the most balanced combination of brightness and highlight detail, whereas the Samsung S95D suffered from minor clipping due to its 4000 nit tone curve whose roll-off plateaued before 85% of PQ, which corresponds to around 2500 nits. We also played this scene from Mad Max Fury Road to check for tone mapping artifacts within a 4000 nit container. The LG G4 came closest to matching the reference monitor, while the Sony A95L and to a lesser extent the Panasonic Z95A exhibited a strange darker halo inside the sun, which wasn't present on the monitor. For HDR light output, we put up this white room sequence from the 4K Blu-ray of Moonfall, where the Samsung S95D beat its rivals fairly convincingly thanks largely to its latest Gen QD OLED panel. To evaluate 10-bit gradation, we played this now familiar sequence from the 4K Blu-ray of Kingsman, looking at the smoothness of the tonal transition in the sky and around the sun. Sony's traditional prowess in this area seemed to have taken a small hit, possibly after a firmware update on the A95L, leaving the door open for the Samsung S95D to take the crown in this category despite lacking any dedicated decontouring filter setting. All 4 OLED televisions performed well in our uniformity test, consisting of a low light sequence from June and some football broadcast featuring panning shots, with the exception of the Panasonic Z95A, which manifested some dark blotches along the left side of the screen. On to less than pristine content. Upscaling quality was judged based on this 1080i recording from BBC HD, and the LG G4 scored the highest in this category, possibly thanks to its always active micro-contrast enhancement even with all sharpening and super resolution controls disabled. While the Panasonic Z95A respected true bypass with absolutely no added edge enhancement to present an analog-looking picture, unfortunately it looked softer than flagship OLEDs from other brands, resulting in the lowest score from the judges. To evaluate low bitrate handling, we played this heavily compressed broadcast recording of The Invisible Man from ITV HD, with noise reduction and smooth gradation settings enabled on the TVs where available. The LG G4 and the Sony A95L were deemed to be better than the Samsung S95D and the Panasonic Z95A at cleaning up the ropey picture. To judge bright room performance, we turned on the overhead ceiling lamps and a pair of outward-firing studio lights at the venue to simulate a bright living room environment, then played daytime TV program and football on the TVs which were switched to day mode, calibrated to their respective highest light output without negatively affecting color and 2.2 gamma accuracy. The LG G4 romped home in this section, thanks mostly to its brightest SDR light output, high ambient contrast, and lack of logo detection auto-dimming after disabling TPC and GSR in the service menu, whereas the Sony A95L dimmed down the most, since there's not even the relevant setting to adjust it in the regular user menu. The matte finish on the Samsung S95D helped the TV score highest in the reflection handling category at the expense of ambient contrast due to elevated blacks and a more washed out image in a bright room. While watching football and daytime TV, we also engaged motion interpolation using optimized settings on every TV, and asked the judging panel to assess 50 Hz motion handling. LG has made great strides in this department, no longer suffering from microstutter during hand gestures or facial movements in mixed edits following an earlier firmware update, allowing the G4 to prevail in this category. To crown the best home theater TV, we added up the scores for attributes which are important for watching high-quality 4K HDR movies in a dimly lit room, such as near black handling, color accuracy, HDR performance, dark uniformity, and 10-bit gradation. The best home theater TV of 2024 was the Samsung S95D, whose class-leading near black luminance accuracy, native 10-bit gradation, and color luminance propelled it to victory ahead of the Sony A95L in second place. Obviously, not everyone will be watching pristine quality content in a dark room all the time, so we also have an award for the best living room TV, which does well with a combination of heavily compressed material and spots, in a bright room if necessary. We totted up the scores for upscaling, compression handling, 50 Hz motion, screen uniformity, and also bright room performance, and the best living room TV of 2024 was the LG G4, which delivered the sharpest upscaling and the brightest SDR light output without auto-dimming, followed by the Samsung S95D. Finally, the overall best TV of 2024. But before that, I would like to thank all 9 professional and enthusiast judges for taking their precious time out on a Sunday to evaluate these TVs. It's important to stress that the voted results neither represent the opinions or views of the individual judges, nor do they constitute the endorsement of any particular TV brand, since the judges didn't even know which TV was which throughout the voting process. Each TV's bezel and speakers were similarly masked and labeled A, B, C, and D from left to right for scoring. To prevent interface menus and pop-ups from revealing the TV's identities, we asked the judges to wait in a separate room while I looped content on an Oppo 203 4K Blu-ray player. Judges were only invited back to the shootout room once all menus and notifications had cleared. Many thanks to content distribution specialist Netvio, who supplied the 8x8 matrix and HDMI cables used at this year's shootout. I can report that the connections remain flawlessly stable without signal interruptions throughout the event, avoiding any no-signal messages that might have revealed the TV brands. Last but not least, thanks to award-winning UK electrical retailer 𝗕𝗲𝘁 for supplying the TVs and hiring a venue for this shootout. in particular David Corner, for organizing the event. 𝗕𝗲𝘀 have invested over £500,000 in a new superstore just outside Rotherham featuring bespoke displays of the latest televisions, appliances and kitchens. This new store and their continuing partnership with me on the annual TV Shootout and TV Calibration Service have helped them win the ERT Best Independent Retailer Award this year. Talking of which, for a limited time only, 𝗕𝗲𝘀 are offering their in-store calibration service from only £129 if you buy any 2024 OLED TV from them. I have personally trained their calibrator David Corner to my own high standards. He will run in the TV, calibrate it and deliver it to you after having the calibration approved by me. We have been doing this for more than 3 years, and customer feedback has been excellent. So please give 𝗕𝗲𝘀 a call if you wish to buy a calibrated TV, or even any new TV at a competitive price with top-notch customer service. Thanks again for your support. Okay, after adding all the scores in all 7 categories, I can announce that the best TV of 2024 in our TV shootout this year is the LG G4 with 28.97 points. The Samsung S95D was the runner-up, having accumulated 28.61 points. Last year's winner, the Sony A95L, could only settle for 3rd place with 27.93 points. But to be fair, it was always going to be a tough task going up against 2024 TVs with newer and brighter OLED panels. Would the Sony Bravia 9 Mini LED TV have fared better? Based on my early testing, I don't believe so, given that the A95L QD OLED with pixel-level light control should be superior to the Bravia 9 in shootout conditions, where at least 70% of content is evaluated in a darkroom against a reference monitor. In any case, we can only use retail units in our TV shootouts, and to my knowledge, there's no retail stock of the 65-inch Bravia 9 available for purchase in the UK yet. But back to the G4. LG has improved its near-black overshoot suppression, motion handling, and upscaling to keep pace with the Samsung S95D and the Sony A95L, eventually peeping them to the post with exemplary bright room performance. So many congratulations to LG Electronics for creating such a phenomenal all-purpose television. It's even rated as the most accurate out of the box relative to the reference monitor, helped in no small part by LG's decision to disable dynamic tone mapping by default in the most accurate HDR filmmaker mode. However, please note that this shootout is only intended as a guide. The fact that we tested so many different categories is to provide a point of reference for your specific use case. These are the absolute 4 best TVs you can buy in 2024 when it comes to outright picture quality, so there's no shame in coming last at all. Unfortunately, we still haven't found a way to judge gaming performance in a fair manner, since each TV would need a different set of HGIG calibration values on the console due to different HGIG implementation and clipping point. Now, one thing I forgot to mention was that after I reset the TVs to out-of-the-box filmmaker mode to compare out-of-the-box color accuracy, I had to manually go into each TV to switch off one hidden setting that harms picture quality so much that it needed to be disabled. Otherwise, the comparison would be useless. To find out what this setting is and how to disable it on your TV to improve picture quality, please go watch my instruction video by clicking here.